in this group. Perhaps I could communicate with them too. Thank you.
We'll work on that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there other speakers in public comment? Fine. While you're coming up, I'd just like to say the withholding money seems problematic to me, because if it's something that the institution doesn't value now, withholding money isn't going to make them value it more. I think one of our tasks is to really explain to the public and to the people working in the institution and to the legislature why, in the long run, we save money and we increase public safety in our community if we prepare people to go back into the community, because they are going there. But I just did want to make a comment on the percentage recidivism mandate. You know, this is what we do to our public schools. We have a mandate. They improve performance every single year, and if for 3 years in a row they don't, they're put in receivership, and all kinds of bad things happen to them. It has always struck me as not being entirely fair if you don't fund them to achieve the goals that you've set. But it's interesting. Educational performance has gone up in California. So.
Well, the results of accountability.
It's interesting. So that's why, accountability probably is important. Thank you. Another speaker from the public.
Yes, good morning. My name is John Dannenberg, Senator. I'm at the other end of the spectrum. I'm a lifer parolee. I just happened to be visiting in Sacramento today on other business and came by.
Welcome to the committee.
Perfect timing, as happenstance would have it. There is a statistic that is not very well advertised, and that is that the relatively few persons who've gotten out as lifer parolees have a remarkably low recidivism rate. It's down around 1 or 2%, and that it does not involve even violent crimes, as I'm told. There's a pattern here. The pattern is that the lifers who are seeking to gain parole are working very hard to gain an education while they're in prison. And Ms. Lewin's project at San Quentin was one that I was very familiar with. To me, there's a very unusual correlation between the education that lifers seek in order to improve themselves, in order to be able to gain parole, and the fact that their parole rate at 1 or 2% is simply the other end of the spectrum from the 70% that everybody here is quoting. There's got to be a message in there somewhere. And the message is that there is another factor that comes in, and that's called what I call the connection factor. One can go to a class, one can be exposed to an education, but what one really needs to come out of the prison system whole is a feeling of self-respect, of self-dependence. And that comes from a combination of learning to meet people. In often cases, these are the instructors, the ones who are told don't develop any personal relationships. But there is a personal relationship, even at a distance. And this becomes the wherewithal where the prisoner, is able to break the mold that he comes from, often a gang background, a low education background, and instead find that he or she can gain the self-respect that they need to stand on their own 2 feet when they get out. The education system is tantamount for that to occur. But there is a factor, and I'll close with this. Ms. Lewin pointed out that she finds herself fighting the system to be able to gain a foothold, to be able to do what she wants to do. And sadly, there's a competitive element here. The system is designed for self-promulgation. The system is designed that more prisoners equals more money equals a better lifestyle. And education and the attempt to gain recidivism cuts are in competition with that. There are maybe 35,000 correctional officers in the state. Each one has a post order. The post order states what they shall do at their job position. Not one of those post orders says anything about correcting. It's not in their job description. And education is even further away from the concept of just correcting. And I will state that my own belief is that the problem lies with the legislature. They've never defined the term corrections. If you can't define it, you can't measure it. If you can't measure it, you can't incentivize it. And Senator Hancock, I heard you use the term incentivize several times today. I know it's of concern to you, but I think that there's a fundamental problem that the legislature needs to define corrections in a way that allows a measure to be made so that an incentive can be placed with a goal, and that goal, as the last speaker made, was reduced recidivism.
Thank you.
For hearing me.
I think that your point is very well taken, and it is something we need to work on, and that's really one of the reasons we're having hearings like this, to try to build a base of shared information, because we have, unfortunately, many legislators who are afraid of being not tough enough on crime, and it really took a Republican governor to add corrections to the title at all. Now we need to define it and make it real. I agree with you, and thank you very, very much. Senator Liu and I are half an hour late. Yeah, we are. So if there are no more comments from the public, let me again thank you. We have had this hearing because we believe that adding corrections to the title is extremely important for saving money for our taxpayers, making our communities safer, and respecting the quality of life in our communities and in our prisons. And we are going to try to do as much as we can, even in an era of no money, with the things that can be done with positive leadership and proper management and the interface between those things. And thank you all very, very much for hearing this.